Hello YouTube, this is Joe with Joe Tech Projects. What does all this stuff have to do with what I'm doing today? Alright, so today we're going to be making an audio tube. To do that, we use a couple of 90 degrees PVC Schedule 40 thick stuff, some Schedule 40 6-inch pipe. I use the kind that has the bell end on both sides, that way the speaker will fit inside of it. We'll cut a couple of pieces off here. We're going to go through showing you how to cut the proper way of cutting PVC pipe, or the easier way anyway. And we'll put a couple little extra pieces inside the tubes where the speakers are going to mount, so that we have enough meat for the screws to bite onto. Some other things we'll need are a drill and a drill driver, some 6-inch speakers. You probably will want to go with a marine speaker. Probably a two-way speaker is the best to go with instead of a three-way. That way you get a little bit more bass with a two-way than you do with a three-way, and it still plays pretty good mids and highs. We're not really going to get a lot of bass with this kind of system, maybe just a little bit. I actually bought on Amazon this Pyle Hydra kit. It comes with 2 RCA capable hookups, so if you want to hook up a Bluetooth inside the tube later on, you can do that. I'm not doing that in this video. It's got all your power and ground wires on this side. This kit actually came with quite a few things. It came with a waterproof bag for your phone or iPod. Regular 3.5 millimeter cord in case you're going to plug that in instead of using the Bluetooth. I actually have a separate little Bluetooth dongle that I'm going to use. It came with this RCA connectable 3.5 millimeter port jack here, and it's got a nut on the bottom of it right here, so we'll be able to drill a hole in one of the tube areas and put this in there and seal it up, and then you can plug into it whenever you need to. It has a gain control that plugs into the amp as well. And the instructions said when you turn this all the way down, it shuts the amp off. We'll test that out later and see how it works. We have the part that's going to go on the amp, and it has basically it's the 2-wire connector, male and female. This is the part that's going to go into the 12-volt connector on the bike itself. My bike actually has a cigarette lighter plug right on the by the steering column. So this will actually be pigtailed out of the tube right here, and this part's going to actually hook up to the amp. So whenever I'm ready to plug it in, I'll just hook these two together and plug it right into the 12-volt adapter. And we have some black all-purpose silicone. It's waterproof, and a caulking gun. The undercoating spray. That's what I'm going to be using to spray the tubes with after I get them together. So this amp kit is it's definitely not high dollar. I think I paid about 46 bucks for it on Amazon for the kit. It did come with a pretty, I guess, decent looking water protective bag or case with the 3.5 jack on it, so that you can keep your phone or iPod dry or whatever you're planning to use. A few more things you'll want to have is a pipe cleaning solution, pipe primer, and cement. I plan to solder my wires since they'll be inside the tube. That way they make a good strong connection. If you try and just use wire nuts, they can shake loose if you're on a four-wheeler, and tape will probably just melt from the heat over time. You can certainly go with a much better amp. Clarion makes an amp for about 100 bucks on Amazon. Probably much better than this one. But I'm doing this on a budget, and if it gets ruined in the mud, I won't be so sad about it. So about these speakers, these are just standard Pioneer two-way speakers. It's definitely not the paper cone, so that's a little better. I would definitely recommend marine grade if you plan on using your audio tube in a boat. But if you're going to use it for a golf cart or four-wheeler for just trail riding, that's mostly what we're going to do is trail riding. You might do a little mud riding, but you can always take the audio tube off if you get into something really wet. I'm going to use some straps to hook the audio tube up. But anyway, if you want to go into some wet situations, you probably want to go with a marine speaker, and especially on a boat, they're built for that kind of environment. I just bought these because they're a little bit less expensive, and I have a lot of great experience with Pioneer, sounding really great for a low price. I will have the prices and links to anything I bought on Amazon. If you click the Show More tab, you'll see all of the things I have for this build today. Even this undercoating spray you can get on Amazon. I actually bought it at Napa. It's pretty much the same stuff that you'll get on Amazon, about the same price. Alright, we're going to cut our two little pieces, probably, I don't know, just maybe 2 inches or so to put inside the bells of the 90-degree angles. Cutting PVC tube, if you've never cut it before, can be pretty tricky, especially, well, small diameter is easy, but the larger diameter, 3, 4, 6 inches, it can be pretty tricky to cut, because when you're trying to cut with your hacksaw, if you just decide to just saw right through it, the blade's going to wander and you'll get a really crooked cut. What we're doing today is doesn't require a whole lot of precision or anything, but it's always nice to have a straight cut. So we're not going to use this whole tube. We're going to use just a portion of it. And when you buy it, normally you have to get a 10-foot section of it at Lowe's is where I got this particular pipe. And the 90 degrees, by the way, was the best price place I could get the pipe from. And anyway, you want to be able to save this for future use, so you don't want to mess it up too bad. So one trick I learned when I'm doing cutting PVC pipe is first I'll mark it. Looks like about 1.5 inches will be a good size, so we'll mark it at about 1.5 inches. And we'll mark it all the way around the pipe. It's always nice if you have a partner helping you out here, which I don't today. My partner is at the store right now. So we'll go all the way around to where we can see these marks visibly. We'll put a couple more here. And that's probably good right there. Sometimes people will put a piece of tape as a guide, but again, we're not looking for precision here, so we can just eyeball it. But the best way to cut this is to go from dot to dot here roughly, and you want to score the whole pipe all the way around one good time. Maybe even go around it a couple times to make sure you get in there. And what that's going to do is going to give your blade kind of a track to follow so that you cut the pipe relatively straight. Some people will cut this with a saw, like a mechanical saw, hand grinder, table saw. You got to be careful cutting PVC on a table saw. It can crack, and if it does, you'll have pieces flying at you, so you definitely want to wear some safety gear, some eye protection. And I'm not doing the greatest job in the world here, but again, it doesn't have to be super perfect. Our tolerances are very large on this project. And you can see I kind of went off my line already. That's okay. We'll make it back up in just a second. So from there, you just kind of keep going around it. It won't take too long to cut through the whole thing. So once you get your score all the way around, then you can start cutting through a little deeper as you go. Watch your fingers. Luckily, we only have to make about 3 cuts today, so we won't be doing too much of this. This part's not super important, but you clean this up a little bit. Get the burrs out with a deburr tool if you have one, or a pocket knife. That'll, you just don't want to get all this stuff mixed up with your PVC cement. It'll make a nice, good, tight bond on the pipe. All right. We'll do 2 more, and we'll measure the pipe we need in the bike. You want to, you definitely want to take your bell and size it correctly, like this. Put it on, see about how far in it goes, and you can make a mark on the pipe, roughly where it goes into. And that gives you kind of a good measurement for your offset, and it looks like it's probably about 2 inches, so that's pretty good. So we'll measure the longer piece we need between the 2 bells. I'm thinking it's going to be about 12 or 14 inches, and we'll put it on the bike and kind of lay everything out, measure it up that way before we make a decision to cut. But you just have to remember to leave extra 2 inches on both sides that'll go inside the bell. So account for that before you make your long cut. So I have the 2 90-degree elbows on the front of the four-wheeler, and what we're going to do is just take kind of a measurement between. This is a loose mock-up, but that's about where I want it. I don't want it to come over, too far over the side edges there and catch anything if I'm going through trees and stuff. So remembering about a 2-inch overlap on each side. Probably a little longer than I thought. Looks like maybe 18. Alright, I got all the pieces cut out now. This is kind of a dry fit. You can see how it'll look before I put everything together. What I'm going to actually do is, a lot of people will bond this up together with PVC cement, but I want mine to be a little easier to get to. So my plan is I'm going to actually use a marine stainless steel screw, probably one only on each side, just to hold it together really. But I'm going to put a bead of the black silicone that I got inside of here. Black silicone will be a lot easier to pry this thing apart if I ever have to get inside and do some work to the amp or whatever, because it won't be easily accessible once it's all sealed up. So something to remember for sure. Alright, so next we're going to prep the other bell sides here, clean them out a little bit. And we'll use our pipe cleaning solution. I think it's similar to like acetone or something. I'm just going to put a little bit in there and wipe it out again. Makes the pipe pretty tacky actually. Next we're going to prime them up. This stuff just takes a minute or so to dry. Doesn't take very long at all. And we'll also do our little rings here. Don't let this primer get on your your clothes if you're worried about your clothes staining, because this stuff does not come out. Some people make their audio tubes with the regular size 90 degrees tube or angle tube. So some of them come with a bell on one side to connect a pipe, and then it just stays the same 6-inch diameter size here. So it would be roughly the same size as our little fitting that we made. I would have went that route. However, my speaker grills look a lot nicer with the larger bell. So if I were to put it like this, it would actually overhang just a little bit, and I'm a little bit worried about that catching the grill on something. So this just kind of makes it a little neater, tucks it in a little nicer. All right, next thing we're gonna do. This is already pretty good here. Get our PVC cement inside here. Really, you can be liberal with this. Doesn't take a whole lot, but in this case, more is a good thing until you start making a mess. It sets up pretty quick, so you don't want to mess around too much. Get it in there. Let it poke out just a hair. Alright, that looks pretty even. I think we're good there. Get the other side. By the time I'm done gluing this one in, the other one should be almost dry already. That's okay, we still have to paint this. So when we paint it, we're going to let it dry at least an hour or so before we start installing everything else into it. We're making it water resistant, not submersible, is my goal here. So if you get a little rain on it, then it's not going to hurt it too bad. Alright. That looks pretty even. Actually, a smoother cut on this side. I think we're good to go there. Alright, next up I'm going to clean the outside really well, maybe do a little light sanding to it. This stuff doesn't need a lot of sanding, it sticks on to just about anything, and in fact it's really hard to get off. So if you don't want it getting on your driveway or table or anything like that, I suggest you use a big piece of cardboard or hang it somewhere to spray this stuff on. It's going to really make a mess if you let it. So some people will take a knife or a grinder and shave off all the lettering on the pipes. I kind of like that. It's kind of like when you steal a sewer drain cover. Not that I've ever stolen a sewer drain cover and used that as decoration somewhere. This is a company that's been around for a long time, so they're well recognized, and it gives it a little character, I think. So we're going to leave it like that. I haven't glued these parts together. I'm only going to use a little bead of silicone on the inside to kind of keep it held together tightly, and one marine screw that I'll probably put a little bead of silicone around. The silicone I got was black, so it'll match the paint. So it should look pretty clean when we're done. I'd show you guys my makeshift painting setup here out in the yard. Set of aluminum, like an old Cajun anchor. Jammed it in the ground about 1.5 feet or so. Use some string to string it up. Alright, while my paint is drying on the PVC tube, I started managing my wires a little bit. Got my speaker wires, 2 of them, cut and prepared for connecting and soldering. And these are the RCAs. I think I might have said earlier in the video that we could hook up a Bluetooth as well if we wanted to. We'll test it out to make sure I'm thinking correctly. This amp didn't really come with a whole lot of wiring instructions. Since we're not using channel 3 and 4, I went ahead and banded those up just to get them out the way. We're only going to be working with channels 1 and 2. Here's your hot lead power terminal. This is the negative, and this is the remote wire. So typically, on if you're installing an amplifier in a car, you're going to hook this remote wire up to the remote on the stereo receiver. If not, like in our previous video when we did the install with a factory stereo, we actually just tapped into a fuse that comes on with the ignition. Well, you don't really have, I guess you could tap into the ignition on the 4-wheel if you wanted to, but here it's a lot easier with a small amp like this, and in this scenario we're just going to tie it into the hot lead, and it'll just draw whatever, 0.002 milliamps I think is what it takes to turn the system on. So shouldn't be a problem. We'll hook it up downstream of the fuse somewhere, wherever we make the connection here. So the amp speaker wires actually come with this pretty handy, the little, can you see that there? It's basically the plug-in type adapters. You just need to hook up the male portion of that plug connection to the speaker wire, and then you can just plug them together and then put some electrical tape on it. Or you could even drop some solder in there if you want to as well. I am going to just cut these off and twist my wires and solder them and then tape them. Alright, I don't have a great soldering kit, but I'll try and show you as best I can here. Basically, you want to take your soldering tip and start heating the wire up first. You get the speaker wires nice and hot, and you'll see I kind of braided them together in line with each other. That way it makes a nice streamline profile. The solder is going to actually work to keep that connected. So basically, when your speaker wire is hot enough to start melting the solder, you're pretty much ready to go. There we go. Now we get the wires hot enough. So when you get the wires hot enough, that's when the solder is going to really sink down into the wire. Make a good connection. Should burn the plastic too much there. It's going to weep. It'll weep in between the wires. That'll give you a really solid connection once it dries. Alright, that's one, and I'll spare you on the rest. Solder usually stays pretty hot for about 30 seconds or so, and then it cools down to where you can get the tape on it pretty quick. And you want to put this on pretty tight. The tighter you put this tape on, it holds with adhesive and a bit of a friction fit too, so the tighter you get it on there, the less chance it'll unravel over time. You can do some heat shrink tubing if you wish. That would be even better than what I'm doing here, but this will work for our purposes. To keep some tension on the tape as you're wrapping it. Alright, got both speaker channels wired in. Next we'll work on the power wire, which will be this piece here. This was just going to go inside the tube. This will hook to the amp side, and then this will be just outside the tube. We'll what we'll probably do is maybe tie a knot in it to help keep it from getting overstretched or pulled out of the tube. We only need a little bit of this poking out of the tube anyway. We'll drill the hole big enough to fish this through, and then we'll put some silicone around it, and this knot will keep it from backing through. We don't want to put that too tight because we might pinch the wires, but these are pretty heavy duty thick wire, so that ought to do the trick right there. Alright. Careful, soldering iron still hot over there. Alright, so that's the positive lead. Positive will have a fuse on it, like this one does. Doesn't give us a whole lot of room to work with, so we don't want to mess this up too bad. Probably need a little bit more than that. Alright, so that's the positive. Negative. I already have these stripped, so we're going to hook the remote and positive together when we do this. Like that. And then we will twist these together and solder them and tape them just like the speaker wires. And we'll do the negative and we'll be all set with wiring. Alright, just doing a little sound check, make sure I had everything hooked up correctly. And the controller works pretty good. Obviously it doesn't sound that great yet because it's not in the tube. But I have everything hooked up and I have it running just off the battery for right now. I think something was wrong with this wire. I think it had a blown fuse in it. I'm going to try it again in a second to see what's going on with it, not quite sure. But anyway, we'll figure it out. If I have to order another one, I'll order another one to make it work. Finally figured out what was wrong with this plug. As it turns out, this one and the one that's hooked to the amp, or they are from different manufacturers, and I didn't realize this. And it took me a little bit of testing. I made some little test wires to plug inside of the male and female parts of the jack. It actually shows you on here. It's kind of hard to see, but there was a plus and a minus. The other one doesn't have that, which would have made it a lot easier to realize what was going on. So anyway, all I did was I took this male in. Instead of ordering a new one, this was only like $4 I think. So I went ahead and snipped it, and I flipped the wires and soldered them and then taped it back up. Not the prettiest looking thing, but I can always order a new one in the future when that one wears out or breaks. And I had to change the fuse inside the tip of it as well. I have the tube all painted up. Gonna get another can. I ran out with one can, took the whole can. I'll probably need to do some touch-ups later. I highly recommend sanding the PVC down. I've noticed I could have did a little bit of a better job sanding. I just did a quick light sanding on it. It's probably not cured all the way because I put 2 heavy coats, so it may not be dry all the way, but I have one spot where my fingernail was easily taking it off. So for the speaker, what we're going to do is mark the holes where we need to drill. And when you do go to drill the holes for this, first off you want to make sure everything's lined up really well. But when you do drill the holes for this, you want to make sure that you drill at an angle in towards the pipe. So when you're drilling, you drill in like that. Just going to make a little dot where each one of these is going to go. Alright, that's my drilling points. We'll do the same thing on the other side. And I have a 1/8 inch bit size drill bit. and that is just a little bit smaller than the actual screws. They're going to go in to hold the speaker in. You don't have to go in far. I marked my drill bit with some tape just to kind of get a good idea of the depth we want to go. Should be pretty darn close. And when we're going to do the final installation and mounting, I will put a bead of the black silicone around the face of it, and that'll seal it up a little better, like a gasket. I cut a couple of wood blocks. We're going to just screw the amp onto them like this on each side. And I didn't do it perfectly, but the idea is to get this surface as close as I can to the pipe, and then leave a little airspace in between the two blocks. What a lot of people do is they'll take that great stuff foam and they'll use the foam around this to hold it in place. My plan is to use 2 marine grade stainless steel screws, and I'll drill and then screw them in through the pipe and then put a little bit of my silicone on there. That way I can take the amp out a little easier if I need to. If you use that great stuff foam, it makes a big mess, and I feel like it's going to be a lot harder to remove the amp if I ever want to take it out and really take a close look at it and work on it or whatever. So the idea with my build is to make it as accessible as possible if we need to in the future. I'm about to get ready to drill the holes in the pipe for the only 3 things that will be protruding through the pipe. I'm going to put the power cord, which is roughly about a 5/8 or so cord. Some people might, want to cut this and then resolder it, make it a little bit smaller profile in a hole. I'm just going to put a good bit of silicone right there, and I'll spray paint over it, make it look as decent as I can. I don't want to cut the wire any more than I need to, and that's about the size of the hole I'm going to need here. So this gain control is roughly at about a 7/8. I think that should fit just about right. And the 3.5 millimeter is about 3/4, so that should do pretty nicely for that as well. I'm going to put the power on this side because the power is on the left-hand side of the bike, and I'll put the gain control I think in the middle here, and then I'll put this on this side. The reason why I'm doing it on the straight part of the tube is I figured these 2 are the more expensive pieces, the elbows, and I may change this setup in the future, and it's a lot easier to replace this middle piece than the other, so that's where I'm going to do all my drilling and everything. And I should be able to give myself enough clearance to where it won't bother the amp, and I'm going to put the amp roughly in the middle in there somewhere. So it should all work out. We'll see how it goes. We'll do some pilot holes first. And I'm going to just eyeball it here. We'll get it pretty close. And then roughly in the middle, this one. Should be pretty close. Alright, 5/8 first for the power. 7/8. Hopefully I won't run out of battery power here. Oh, ran out of battery? No, there we go. That's a sharper bit. I use that 5/8 pretty often. And 3/4 for the aux port. There we go. Has the 3 holes drilled, and we should be able to mount everything in there properly. I took the little nut that goes on the back side of the 3.5mm adapter off. Just need to feed those through the hole, one at a time. We pass these back through the nut, one at a time. Looks like it'll fit pretty well. We'll get that on there kind of tight. You can put a little silicone on that if you want to get a good watertight seal. We're doing more of a water resistant setup. This one up pretty tight. This is going to go through here, like that. Tie a knot in this one first. I'm not going to tie this too tight, that's just to help keep it from accidentally pulling through that hole all the way, just like that. There we go. Okay. We'll get this guy, the gain control, through the middle. And it's got some, it's like double stick tape or something on here. We'll take that off. I'm going to have to drill that hole out just a little bit more. I'll just put the same bit back in and kind of ball her out a little bit just to make it slightly larger. Alright, after some convincing with the same drill bit, I got this hole big enough for the gain control. And we'll put a couple of screws in right there later to finish it off. That looks pretty good. I'll just probably use the screws that came with it. That's going to look pretty nice, I think, if I didn't get it too crooked. Alright, So we have our 3 hookups. We'll put some silicone in that hole, black silicone there. And I think we should be okay with that seal once we screw these 2 screws in and get that a little tighter. Made a bit of a mess here. Alright, next thing is going to be to get the amp inside the hole here now. And we'll get it screwed in position. Alright, so you can probably see in the tube there. Might even tilt this thing a little bit, about right like that. And I'll drill through it and then put a couple of marine screws and secure it in just like that. And we should be ready to go. We'll put the other side on and we'll connect the speakers and should be jamming. Alright, I have the screws in place. It's holding the amp in position. Shouldn't be going anywhere. Now I can put this elbow back in place. And before I'm done, I'll back these back out, put some silicone on them, where I said earlier, and I'll probably put another marine screw in each one of those guys to hold it in place. So, but next up I'm going to hook the speakers up first real quick. Get those in and do a check on everything before I seal it all up completely. And we should be ready to rock. Alright. Looks like I hooked everything up correctly. It's playing. All I have left to do is put the speaker grills on. And as it turns out, I'm going to have to use some silicone caulk to put those speaker grills in place to make them sit. But because the way this hooks up, it's not like on a car. There's really nothing to screw the speakers onto or the grills onto. But that'll also give me the chance to make my water seal around here as well. So anyway, that's pretty much the end of the project. Just going to silicone around the speakers for the grills, around here with the marine screw here, marine screw there, fill in that hole, do the other one, and we're done. Too bad. Alright everybody, the project is finished. Audio tube for the 4-wheeler, and you can see that it's playing right now. It actually sounds pretty good. I used a couple of one-way straps for now. I might figure something else a little more convenient out later, but it's pretty solid in there. It's shaking the whole bike when I go to move it, so I don't think it's going to go anywhere. And it looks like it's about the right size. Doesn't look too bad at all. Alright, so here's what it sounds like. Might be hard to hear over the video, but it gets pretty darn loud. You can definitely hear it over the motor. watching this project. It was a pretty fun one for me. Please like and subscribe to our channel. And if you have any questions, post some comments. I usually get back to everybody within a week or so. Sorry for the delay in that, but give me some questions and I'll try and answer them. All right, enjoy if you try and build this.